A text takes 3 hours to get a reply. Most people shrug it off. But for a certain kind of person, those 3 hours quietly become an emotional spiral, where the mind starts engaging in catastrophic thinking, convincing itself the relationship is falling apart. They begin cycling through what they said wrong, what changed, and why they're suddenly not enough. And the painful part is that this reaction feels completely involuntary, because psychologically, it often is. Number 1. Fear of abandonment. For someone carrying a deep fear of abandonment, unanswered silence doesn't simply register as a delay. Instead, it activates abandonment anxiety and feels like a verdict. In attachment psychology, early bonds with caregivers become the emotional blueprint for every relationship that follows. So when those bonds were inconsistent or unpredictable, the nervous system learned to associate silence with danger. As a result, years later, a gray chat bubble no longer means someone is busy. It feels like emotional withdrawal. It feels like they're pulling away. Not a conscious choice, but rather an old survival response being unconsciously replayed in a modern situation. Number 2. Hypervigilance from emotional inconsistency. Growing up in an environment where love arrived in unpredictable waves teaches a child not to relax. Instead, it conditions them to constantly scan for emotional shifts. In psychology, this is called hypervigilance. During childhood, reading a caregiver's mood became a form of survival adaptation. Then later, in adulthood, that same nervous system alertness transfers onto texting behavior. Response time, punctuation, a missing emoji, or a slightly different tone. So what looks like overthinking from the outside is often actually a trauma-conditioned nervous system doing exactly what it was trained to do. Number 3. Low self-worth tied to validation. For someone who had to earn affection through performance, people-pleasing, or compliance, a painful internal equation slowly develops. I am only as worthy as the last response I received. Because of this, a delayed text no longer feels neutral. It becomes a form of emotional evidence. Proof. And the internal voice doesn't say they're probably busy. Instead, it says you're not a priority. This is often rooted in validation dependency, where self-worth becomes psychologically tied to external reassurance. And no amount of fast replies can permanently heal that wound. Because the wound itself isn't in the phone, it predates every relationship they've ever had. These patterns don't come from weakness. Rather, they often come from environments that never felt emotionally safe enough for secure attachment to fully develop. And if this resonates with you, here's where healing quietly begins. 1. Pause before reacting. Give yourself a moment before the emotional spiral begins. Very often, the narrative your mind creates in silence is shaped more by cognitive distortion than reality. 2. Reframe the delay. A late reply is almost always connected to the other person's circumstances, emotional bandwidth, or daily life, not your worth. 3. Communicate your needs. The right people won't interpret your emotional needs as burdensome. In fact, healthy relationships make space for vulnerability. Saying, "I sometimes need reassurance," is not too much. 4. Build emotional independence. Gradually practice learning how to source emotional stability from within instead of relying entirely on external validation. Through self-awareness, emotional regulation, and consistency with yourself, the nervous system slowly begins to rewire its need for constant reassurance.